Firefighters know that every second counts during the golden hour. That is why first responders trust AMKUS for simple, rugged, reliable rescue tools.
I've been told by everybody up on this roof that they're all off the roof. I am on the roof of exposure 4. Got fire through the roof of the fire building in the entire rear section. Now remember, given the payday, as you can account for, okay? 610B, that was the payday, 610B.
I'm here. We got a fire. 1.5-story, single-family dwelling. Fire showing from the second floor. Give me a second alarm on this.
Bring up to the top floor. I got people hanging out the top floor windows with a baby.
Commercial building. A lot of fire, a lot of smoke. Go ahead and strike a third alarm on my orders on this.
Got people on the front fire escape here with windows centered below them. We need somebody up there.
Yeah, let them know we got a job. I'm pulling up now. Second alarm, I got a 1-story single-family frame. Heavy fire showing from the attic.
So we're using all hands. We got one line stretch, fire on the 4th floor, second line being stretched. Primary stretches are underway.
Hey, welcome back to our Fire Engineering Podcast, The Command Post. I'm Chief Rick Lasky, along with my teaching partner and best friend, Chief John Salka. And we've got another one for you today. Real quick, we always do this. I want to remind you about our Hump Day Hangouts that we have that John and I and Chief Scott Thompson and Chief Curtis Burt, we host as the third Wednesday of every month right here at Fire Engineering. Tell your friends they're live. And then if you miss them, you're on a run or whatever, you work a side job or whatever you're doing, they're always posted to YouTube as these are. So you can catch them. You can catch them later on and watch them at the firehouse or on drill night at your volunteer house. But don't forget about FDIC. It's here we are. It's January. If you're not registering now, you're going to miss out on a lot of classes. Make sure, because the numbers are already growing, and when they run out of seats, they run out of seats. For example, like John and I are doing our 4-hour workshop on Monday, 5-alarm leadership, real leadership with real people. A lot of it's grabbed right out of, we obviously can't teach everything in a whole day that's in our leadership book, but a lot of it's cherry picked out of there. It's a program that a lot of the attendees have been asking us for to bring back to FDIC for a lot of years. So make sure you register for that one and get in there and see us. And then Wednesday, after opening ceremonies, we're going to be doing a 3 degrees of Mayday again. Every year, we pack the room. They have to close the doors, which is a compliment, due to fire code regulations. And then if you're looking for us, we say this all the time. We're either at the book booth, the speaker ready room, or maybe at the Dingus Fire booth or CSU or whatever. But we're there the whole week, so come out and see us. But so John, we just made it. About a week ago, we made it this last week. We made it through some snow. I know I was trying to make it back from South Carolina. Another Lancaster, South Carolina. I've been there before. I know you have family. Brian's down there and Goose Creek, and Rachel's down there with, is it Berkeley? Is that the sheriff's department? Berkeley. So you've got family down there. We've been down there literally for decades now. We've got such great friends. It's a great state, but you and I say this all the time. What a great group. You always say, we always have the honor of hanging with, going to dinner with folks and visiting and talking shop. We went to dinner the night before and the dinner with the guys after. It was just, and then the class was a full classroom. I like this, the juniors from the high school, they sat in the front row. And I love that. The future of the fire service sitting right in front of you. I just wish I wish more people brought those programs back to the high schools, whether it's explorers or juniors or cadets, especially the high school ones where you get credit for them. And, it's an actual program, and it was so nice to see that. Real quick, before we get in our topic, I mean, both of us did this before we were actually approved. I'm just saying, how important are the junior programs, especially in the volunteer departments, but even in the career departments, both sides of the fence, if you will, to our future, to recruiting? What are your thoughts on those programs real quick?
Well, you know what? It's varied over the years, explorers and junior firefighters and different titles, different sponsoring organizations, I don't think I've ever met anybody that was either part of a department that was sponsoring that or had that in their department, or anybody that grew up in it and ended up joining the fire. I don't think I've met anybody that had really any negative comments about any of these junior fire department or explorer posts at all. Now, especially now with the fire service, more with the volunteer fire service than the career service, but it affects the career service too. I know New York City for years, they would advertise a firefighter test, an entrance exam. And there would be, 70, 80,000, God knows how many people taking a test. And now it's way, way down. The numbers are way down now compared. And then when they give the test and the marks are issued and the list is established, they have to call so many more people off the list to get the number that they're looking for the class. And it used to be no. Used to be if it was a 300-person class, 300-man class, they'd call 300 guys. 300 guys would say yes, they'd be in a class. And 299 or 300 would graduate. And now the numbers are different. And that's career. So now you add that to the volunteer fire service recruitment and retention issue. And the junior firefighter, the recruit thing is good because it attracts some young people, some young men and women, some young boys and girls. They're still students actually, right? And some of them discover that, wow, this is what I want to do. And you know what else it does? It helps some people discover, wow, this is not what I want to do. You know what? No thanks. No thanks. Whoever it may be, boys, girls, or otherwise, right? And that's good too, because some guys and gals, I think, wait and study and take a test and get on a job and work for a year or two. And then they're like, I'm really, and they're really not happy there. And sometimes they end up leaving. Sometimes they end up wasting 2 years doing it. Or sometimes the worst thing that could happen is they end up staying. And they're just marginal employees that are just coming in to get the hours in for the week. And off they go doing whatever else they're doing. So anyway, a long answer. I'm sorry for such a long answer. But, for the recruitment and retention standpoint, I think the junior programs and the recruit programs and the Explorer Post programs, they are very good. Yeah.
Well, and it is, Steele. I'm glad you brought all that up, because that was the whole reason, is to talk about the pros of this stuff. The hard part is getting people committed to be the advisors or the guys running the programs and stuff like that. You and I both have the opportunity. A lot of times we travel, they go, hey, Chief Salka, Chief Lasky, if you guys finish at 4:30, can we steal a half hour at the end and bring our recruits and have them sit in the front? And would you give them some advice and ask questions? Or we'll stop by the firehouse, right? And I love that opportunity when you and I have a chance to meet with the future of the fire service. But you brought something up. It's before you get into a career that you don't think you're going to like. And now, not too many people do that with us because the fire service, but there's a few that go, we've said this, not everybody's cut out to be a firefighter. Not everybody can leave their families on holidays and commit to all this different stuff, but not everybody can see, let's just say dead bodies, people trapped in cars, burnt up this and that blood, they're like, I can't see a kid in my family with a bloody nose, let alone deal with this stuff. This is their chance to do that. But also, John, I said this because I have, and I sit on one more scholarship committee. And I tell a lot of young folks, it's one thing when you're applying for scholarships for college to put down that you help at your local nursing home, with the seniors. You help with scouts. You help at your local food bank, stocking the shelves. All good, great things. But they often forget, I'm an explorer through the Boy Scouts of America. I'm a junior. I'm a cadet. And then you explain what you do. Some of them are actually allowed to assist at fires in the support function or back at the firehouse. So they've been through schooling, or they're helping our Explorer Post. I've got pictures of Whitney. She's full-time career firefighter paramedic now. But when she was 15 at our open house in her Explorer uniform, doing pub ed stuff with the kids and education and things, I look at that and go, wow, little Johnny Salka here is applying for a scholarship. And he was an explorer with the South Blooming Grove Police Department, or the fire department. I'm like, wow, what did you do with that? And they start to explain that. So there's another plus for them doing it. But you and I've talked about this, not to run down this rabbit hole too far, but our system is broken when it comes. We'll do a whole other show on that. We've done them before, and we've done shows on this and old school on recruitment and retention, but our system is broken. We don't know how to recruit. We have really old people that are posting stuff like on Facebook and things. They don't even know that TikTok. They don't even know where 18 and 21-year-old men and women hang out on social media. They think if they put a blinking sign in front of the firehouse saying volunteers needed, bad pay, cool helmet, they think that, the sign in front helps them, but you got to be aggressive. You got to know where your talent is. And I've said this, John, before. I'll ask people, I'm helping them. So what churches do you go to recruit from? What? Well, you're talking about a different crowd you're hiring of people that nowadays may not. A lot of people that we meet at church are good people. Why are you not there saying at the end, Pastor, have a few minutes off in the hallway when people are leaving? Why are you not here? Why are you not out in the high schools? Why, they talk a good game, John, but they really don't do it. And so the juniors, back to the junior programs, I remember when I was in Lynchburg, Virginia, and Eddie Buchanan, Hanover County, when Eddie was, he's now retired. He's not retired. He's working full time doing other stuff. Our good friend Eddie. But he said they bus loaded a whole group. They just started the high school program again. And a lot of them will attach themselves to the technical college, the technical college in town or local community. So they can, their liability and all the syllabuses and all the curriculum is all approved and that. But the whole bus of them, John, showed up. And it was like the coolest thing in the world. And some of them they were Brian Salka. Yeah, my dad's a firefighter. And, I've always thought about it. And here I am. Some of them are like, no, I watched Chicago Fire, and this and that. So I just think it's a great tool. I wish more chiefs fought harder to have an Explorer program or work with juniors program, Anyway, it was just awesome to see him.
It's not like we're the first people to do it. Look at JROTC, right? Right in the high school where I live, Washingtonville High School, junior ROTC. That's what JROTC is. You get these young high school students, girls and guys, both, and they have I don't know what their exact schedule is or how many times they meet per week or what the classes are that they take, but they are squared away and organized, and they get involved in community activities too. They come out and put the flag up at our 9/11 memorial every year. They put the new flag up every morning, and it really just attracts good, young, squared away, boys and girls, and not. I don't know if the answer is many, but a bunch of them do get into military service, and some of them get into other related services, cops and firemen and other public service jobs. So obviously starting young is a great idea because it gets people to either buy in or walk away from something that they experiment with a little bit, which is a great thing.
And real quick, evidence right now, talking to you. So which one of your sons have been in the Scouts? And which one, did anybody make Eagle Scout?
Yeah. My son Johnny made Eagle Scout. Yep.
Johnny, look how successful he and his family, his wife, his great family are doing. What did James do in college? With the Marines.
Oh yeah, James he joined the reserves. Yeah,
because he wanted to get into the ROTC.
He tried to get into ROTC, but it was full. There was a list of people.
Yeah, God bless. And he's a decorated brave. I'll just say, your dad. You don't have. I'm with Bronze Stars, with Valor Devices, Major with MARSOC, with the United States Marine Corps. I'm just saying, so many. Real quick. Remember when we were in Dutchess County, right? And remember the young high schooler. She came up. She's 15. Remember?
Yeah.
And the elected official, who was he? He was like you told me, local in New York. He was. You met him. He was elected. I don't know what he's not a city council member.
Politician. I hate to use that word, but yeah, he was.
Yeah, but a former cop and a great guy.
County guy, yeah.
Yeah, and he was wonderful. I was so glad. God put us, I told him, God put him and her together because she came up and, I'm always asking, right? The cadets, those are the juniors. I'm like, tell me about you. Tell me. And she said, yeah, I'm in the Navy recruit program in high school. I'm doing this. I'm in sports. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I want to go to the Naval Academy, blah, blah. And she had like 6 things she was doing. And remember, we got to introduce her to him, and he's like, well, we'll get you lined up for sponsors right now. Where are you going to be Saturday or Sunday tomorrow at the Pancake? Okay, you meet me. Here's my – and I'm like – and I'm looking at her going, there's the future. This young lady has her whole life ready. She's ready to go. Those are the success stories that some of our fire chiefs and firefighters and officers need to pluck from your neighborhoods and from your schools and utch them, whether it's into the armed forces, whether it's law enforcement, EMS, or fire. We've got that ability. So
and
I just think it's
young because there's so many kids out there now 25, 30, 32, 35 years old. They haven't figured out what they want to do yet. 35 years old, I had 15, 17 years on a job. I was a lieutenant already. I was an officer. I'm not comparing them to me, but, because I started young. I got on as soon as I could, 21 years old. Some of these, kids, both boys and girls, men and women, sometimes they just float around so long. And there's people telling them, oh, don't rush into anything. Figure out what you want to do. And that's good advice. But you got to set some limits. You got to say, well, I got to make a decision by, and whatever that number is. There is no right number, but you can't wait till you're 35, 38 years old to start a career. Certainly not public service careers. A lot of times you won't be able to finish it, and qualify for a pension,
Exactly. And if you remember, I had Jerry Wells, one of my battalion chiefs in Louisville, great guy. He's out there teaching. Great, like we all talk, the greatest leaders are great family people. But I had Jerry do that when I was doing a roll call series of fire engineering, do an article called The Rookie Firefighter Preparing for the Role. And he talked about things, John, like he started off, if you consider these are the classes you should be taking in high school already if you want to be a firefighter. This. Then he's talking about, in high school, what you should be doing and programs you might be thinking about. And even to your first day, you walk up to firehouse, what should be going through your head when you walk through the door. But the whole front end, really nobody ever talked about. A lot of guys talk about the probie, the rookie, but nobody backed it up to, because you've had it. I know you've had it. I've had it. Hey, John, would you mind talking to my kid? Look, I know I work for the city or I work for IBM, but she's talking or he's talking about being a firefighter. You've done this. Yeah, send him over and you have coffee or you meet him at the firehouse and you tell him, well, how are your grades? What are you thinking about? And we kind of coach. I can't tell you how many, how many high schoolers you and I have met with about, so if you want to be a firefighter, think about this. Again, our system's broke. Right now, you and I, if we sat here and said, let's rattle off how many fire departments out of just under 40,000 do that in their local communities, there's your answer. So to the fire chiefs out there, if you complain about recruitment and retention, there's a lot of reasons why that's a whole nother show that we've done and we'll do it again. But if you're looking for the future of the fire service, go find the future. They're sitting right in front of you, man. We go out every October, John, right? And we teach the little kids, stop, drop, and roll, and crawl low in the smoke. Why are we not out there hammering them on career days and going to the schools going, I'm not waiting for career day. I need to talk to you. I need to talk to them now. I need to talk to the 15, 6 years, not the ones that already decide on college. Can you give us some time? Can we set something up? I don't care if only 5 of them show up. I don't care if it's only 5. Give me a chance to talk with them and tell them and go, this is the future, So if you're a fire chief, figure this stuff out. So anyway, I'm glad I've been dying to talk to you about that, especially on this show, because more people need to think about. So, hey, let's talk today, John. We both brought this up recently with some different incidents about the command post, our show, but not the show, but your command post, your IC's location. And over the years, we've had debates. I used to sit on a stage with our good friend, John Mittendorf. John's retired now, but he would do PPV, he was PPV, I was vertical, it was kind of like that. We've done smooth versus fog, all these old debates that we don't even do anymore, all this stuff. But there's always been that kind of debate. Do you sit in the car? Do you stand at the back of the car? Or do you stand in front? And you've said it before, hey, it works all over the place for different people, but there are some things that I think we need to get to that I think have to be happening in order for you to be successful with either, I know how you run things in the Bronx and I know how you run things in South Boardman Grove in Orange County, couple different scenarios there because you don't have, I know Chris retired as a lieutenant, but when he was your aide or Jack Schiavone ride next to you, helping you, hey, Chief, I got this covered for you. So let's talk about, first of all, your thoughts on where we should be, what your ideas behind command post location, and then, go from there. Okay. And then real quick, we said this before, our good friend and mentor who's left us now, he's up fighting fires and teaching in heaven with Bobby and everybody else, Chief Alan Brunacini. He used to say this, you can run command in a van 3 miles. You can run it from City Hall and be away from the fire, but you can't send firefighters in and out of a burning building without having somebody in a white helmet somewhere close enough in front without the traffic cop going, no, back him out. No, if you can't see the smoke, if you can't see the building, if you can't see here, all that there is that was going on, how can you tactically be making good decisions on when to go, no go, when to pull them out, what's going on? Are they making progress in that? So anyway, let's get into that. Let's start. What are your thoughts on the whole process on where and the positives and negatives of each?
Well, my experience, which is all I can really, I mean, I can talk about all the different situations, ones that I do or that I don't do. My experience has always been, away from the vehicle. I used to kid around all the time. FDNY, we have beautiful battalion vehicles. Back in the old days, not so much, but nowadays they're beautiful. Even when I was on the job, when I first made chief back in the day. But now they're beautiful, fully equipped, a lot of good equipment in them, highly visible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I never stayed in the car during a fire. We're never required to. They're still not required to. And I used to kid around a little bit and say, I can ride a damn horse to a fire in the Bronx, and tie the horse up on a parking meter and walk over to the fire building and do the same job that I do when I get there in a battalion car, because we're really not tied to the vehicle at all. And I'm not saying there's not equipment in the vehicle. There's a computer in the vehicle. There's it records who's doing the transmitting on the radio. It identifies you on the radio. You can look on the screen and see who's talking. It identifies the person operating the radio. We have a accountability system built into our radios that blend in with the vehicle radio computer, et cetera, et cetera. But my experience has always been get there, get near the building somewhere. Me personally, I always like to stand, quote unquote, across the street, depending on the size of the street and the amount of traffic and et cetera, et cetera. But I never really bought into, and I still do not like, and I have a lot of issues with, people that have to park either themselves or somebody else in the car. Now, I'm not saying FDNY doesn't have that, because by the time the deputy gets there, that's the second level incident commander in the FDNY. The first level is a battalion chief. And then on a working fire or a major collapse or whatever type of incident it is, another battalion chief is dispatched along with a deputy chief, which is the next rank. And they eventually, almost certainly, if it's still a developing situation, they'll assume command. And then that second battalion chief that arrived, he probably arrives there before the deputy. When I was in charge of a fire, when I was running a job and the second battalion chief arrived, I almost always sent them inside to do something, to do whatever I thought at that time I wanted to get an extra set of eyes on. I might send them to the fire floor, say, see how 45 is doing. Keep that line moving. They got a lot. They got 8 windows of fire still, Or I might tell them, get to the floor above, see what's going on up there. I'm not getting good answers from the floor above. But then once the deputy gets there, in my day, most of the time they cut us loose, and he would give me an assignment then. Wherever I sent the first guy, he would send me somewhere else. Now I'm told, and I know for sure it's true, that now the first incident commander does not go in. Now the battalion chief stays outside with the deputy when he gets there, and he's an assistant. He's his assistant at the command post, which is, I think, a good thing. And now it gives you 2 chiefs immediately at the command post, right?
Well, and John, I was going to say, so you've been running everything from the initial alarm, and you know who's there, what progress they made, what's going to happen, and it's easy to hand that off. But as a deputy showing up, and you're there, and you've been listening to all that stuff as a deputy, but to have the guy or gal that's been running the whole thing, now you're teamed up, is not a bad idea to have a partnership.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
We talked about it.
Nope.
Oh, when we wrote the Managing the Mayday article, golly, man, it was in the late 90s, whatever. You can look it up, Fire Engineering, folks. One of the things he pushed and I push is we talk about it in our Managing the Mayday program and 3 Degrees of Mayday too, about build your think tank. You said it. You can't send a chief inside to figure out what's going on the top floor or inside if you don't have enough chiefs there. If you're sitting by yourself. So the first thing is get enough help to the scene. You've seen in Louisville and in the Denton County area, a lot of departments still do it where the first chief officer arrives, assumes command. Second, now in Louisville, they have an aide, but they get there, they assume command. Second chief shows up and they either pass command and take operations, or that person takes operations, which when I was there, a lot of BCs wanted operations because that's the fun part. You're up front running the fire, directing people, and I'm over there drawing pictures and telling people which way to come in and talking to dispatch and all that. Then the next person takes the back of the building. So now we've got We got this, just like Chicago, that you got everything covered. You're flanking the building, if you will. And then I may stick one in safety. If I don't have a safety officer, I may stick one in charge that, like Chicago sends a RIT chief. Chicago sends a plans chief. On a still in box, there's a chief that never puts he just walks down the command van and sits with the firefighter and is your dispatcher on the scene from you or your aide talking back to dispatch. He runs that. And then I've got them where I've given them to the PIO. I've given them, like Curtis. Curtis, take Division 1, take first floor for me. Get in there and you become the floor manager, like you said, moving people in and out. And you and I've said this for years. God forbid you drop a Mayday in there, and if there's only one he is on the scene as a chief, you're outmatched. I don't care who you are outmatched right now. I remember it was like my last Mayday. I had a BC. It was mutual aid. We were the only two chiefs. He was at the car. And it was it. And you know what? As much as I'm comfortable with what I do, John, it's a lonely feeling when you're the only boss standing in front of the building. You've got two firefighters on fire on the second floor, and you're by yourself. And I'm going, well, it's just, and I've heard you, on the radio. I've been there with you where you count so much on the help you get to the scene. And I know there are chiefs in the FDNY that I've talked to saying, God, I was so happy when I saw Salka walk up. I'm like, I need a partner here. And he's doing the box and here he comes, and it's like, as much as it's nice to see the second engine coming or the second line or get a crew to the whatever for the suppression side, in our command box, it's nice to have bosses there. So I'm glad you brought that up. Plus, the whole point about, I started pointing to you, standing across the street, instead of getting in people's face, where you can see the whole picture, and capture everything thoughts-wise. Right. But having enough people there is one thing, but keep going. I just thought that was a great point.
Right. And another thing that we do in the FDNY, which is great, and I never really realized and I thought about it because it was just always the way we did it, was once I get out of the car, once I get out of the battalion car, I break ranks with the dispatcher. I got nothing to do with the dispatcher anymore. I run the fire. I run the fire on the handy-talkie, on the fireground radio channel. That's all I have, all right? They even dabbled with having a department radio with you, too, and two radios and all this other nonsense. But I pretty much have one radio on, and all I did was speak to everybody on the fireground. So everybody in the fireground is radio equipped, all the officers, all the firefighters, any other chiefs that arrive. Everybody's got a handy-talkie, right? Point-to-point radios, talk directly to each other. And I don't talk to the dispatcher, and I don't hear the dispatcher. Now, obviously, I have an aide. So my aide is listening up to the dispatcher, either in a vehicle, standing next to the cab of the first new truck or the first new engine in front of the building. He can hear it, And now, of course, we get portables that pick it up as well. But that's the aide job. So the aide will come over to me and say, hey, Chief, dispatcher just notified. We'll get a couple of people in 3B and the third floor calling about smoke, So that's great, too. And that's another reason we're not tethered to the vehicle. I'm not tethered to the car. I don't have to maintain communication with the dispatcher because that communication link does exist. It's just not directly to the incident commander. It's to the aide, which is great. It frees up the chief from doing two things at once, from listening to the dispatcher and listening to the fireground. It just makes it difficult. And it depends on, other departments don't have that freedom because of their radio system, because they don't have aides. There's a lot of limiting factors there that can prevent you from being able to do that. Luckily, we weren't prevented, and it worked out well for us. So I was always one-dimensional battalion chief. My dimension was the fireground and the fireground radio. That's all I had to deal with. Am I able to come over and give me a tap on the shoulder if there was something I needed to know? Or I would call him and tell him, transmit a second alarm, I got fire and an exposure. Okay, Chief. And he would go to the radio and transmit that information. I wouldn't even hear him transmit it. I wouldn't hear the dispatcher say second alarm's been transmitted because we're not on that frequency. So that freedom, that separation of department radio, the dispatcher, and the fireground radio, that separation is wonderful, and it keeps people, it keeps all the communication from getting jumbled up together on the same frequency.
Well, and sadly, and we always talk about this because we have our brothers and sisters up in Canada. In the U.S., there's just under 40,000 fire departments. 66% are volunteer. And, I was blessed to have great leadership in Louisville for almost 12 years there. And they gave me the chief's aide long time ago. They came and rode out with you and learned from you and Chris and all your guys. And you tend to forget how many departments don't have those. Chicago, I believe, they lost them after the strike. The deputy district chiefs that come on still in boxes and bigger stuff, they have an aide because that's an appointed position. But unless it's changed, the battalion chiefs, all 24 of them I think they have on duty, do not have an aide.
Right.
They respond to fires by themselves.
I want to add one point about the aide. You don't have to, your department doesn't have to provide you an aide for you to have one. Even volunteer departments, if you're a volunteer and companies are rolling in, you see a captain and 3 or 4 guys coming walking past you. Hey, Cap, engine 2. Yeah, come here. How many guys you got? Oh, I got 5. Got a full house tonight. You know what? Give me Billy. I need Billy to stay with me. Oh, okay, Chief. And he walks away with his 3 guys, and you keep his 4th man. And now you tell Billy, sorry to pull you off the line, but I need you tonight. And now all of a sudden you got an aide. So, that's something that small either career and volunteer departments can do. That's a practice you can get into. You can train for. You can even train a handful of guys in your department. I don't want to say older guys, but more experienced guys that have some experience that aren't dying for that first hose line. They've been in a job or on the department or in the volunteers for 10 or 15 years. Tell them, you know what? We're going to train 10 guys to be chief's aides and assistants. And we may grab you at the scene of a couple of fires now and then to hang with the chief and get on the radio and get some work done for him while he's doing some other stuff, So that's a thought for departments to consider as well. You don't have to have a department provided, even in a career department. It doesn't have to be a funded position. It can be a spot where you can pull a guy. Maybe the union will protest about it, or the company will say, no, I can't afford to give you my 3rd guy or whatever. But you should be able to work that out.
Well, yeah. And you and I had people say when our staffing allows for it, when they bring a guy back on modified duty, we've been able to make that happen once in a while. Like the slow times of the year vacation wise, when they have extra people. And I'll tell you, you've heard me say it. My city manager used to tell our city managers, our HR director would stab you if you try to take from her the chief's aides, because we administratively everything changed. We're not waiting on stuff anymore. I mean, they don't even talk to the battalion chief.
Not even
and to get that out.
It's the whole operation of the battalion, back in quarters and fire reports and telephone calls and staffing and overtime. It's a great position. Yeah.
Well, and now, and we'll get to this. We'll talk about this. I want to go back to some in a second, but about the Green Front Priest guys, we'll talk about them in a second about the drones and all the rest of the stuff and pre-plans. But so I've got a picture, there's some of the places that, limited resources and manpower, understand that. My heart goes out to you because I know you want more people. Everybody wants more people. Is I took a picture, John, at a fire I was at, and you've heard me talk about all these chiefs are standing at the back of this command car, this SUV. They're standing back there all chirping at each other, talking, this guy's doing this, who's drawing pictures and doing all the accountability, and they're standing in the vehicle exhaust. And you remember telling me the story. And command calls safety. He says, what are your readings? And he goes, oh, it's certain this parts per million. They need to stay masked up. He's like, all right, command all companies. Safety says that CO levels are at this. Keep you. And I went like this. I went, the carbon monoxide level is higher at the back of your car than it is in that burning building. So that's one thing. Then guys started having attachments, all kinds of other stuff. So I know in Lewis always we actually set it up where the aide or whoever can literally run the incident from inside. Everything they have, even the marine radio for lake operations with their boats, with other things, everything they need is right there, especially with the computers now and everything. And, it just gave us a chance to have someone else talking, incoming companies, dispatch, coordinate this, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. While you, the battalion chief, got to run your fire. Now, backing that up, there are some pretty sweet command setups you and I've seen the back of some of these cars. Some of these guys have systems where they can shut off, the vehicle and not have the diesel or the gas exhaust blowing in their face. They've got this big system and stuff. And, nowadays, some of the rear command modules, I'll be honest with you, are pretty freaking exciting when you see what you can do as an aide or as command while you're running the fire, tracking, your accountability stuff, your command stuff.
You see the FDNY now has that unit with the drones. They bring their equipment over to the command post as well. So you're not running around saying, "Where's the drone guy?" It's nice to have that.
I see the guy with the green front piece, and I think not only do they do the drones, but they can pull up all your pre-plans. They can. Hey, chief. Okay, let me show you. This is what you got going on the roof. This was going out your exposure. This was going on the back of the building. All the things you had to rely on imagination before or what somebody was telling you. Now you're looking right at it. You're looking at where the hot spots are. And so the technology, if you're still living in a cave and you're not embracing some of the technology that's out there, I'm just saying you're a fool, because the stuff's at your feet. Stuff I used to dream about. I thought it was cool when I used to call Terry McGrath, our good friend Terry, and say, Sector C, we call it Division C. Give me how you doing? Give me a progress report. And he go, this, and all of a sudden, bink, a picture would show up on my iPhone, and he would take it, a current picture of what was going on. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world, that he could send me a picture of what's going on right now, let alone having live drone footage of, and that thermaline and all this different stuff, so on and so forth. But so let me.
Another thing the FDNY can do, and they've been doing it for years. It's not a command post, but the operations center that they have down at headquarters. Headquarters has a gigantic operations center, and you staff by it's got to be 10 or 20 different people in there doing different things, all sorts of screens. They monitor all 5 boroughs. It's almost like monitoring 5 fire departments. They're almost separate fire departments, right? Monitoring every job that comes in, and when a 1075 comes in, one of the operators up there goes to that address, and boom, they have photos on file photos, just about of every building in the city. Boom, they pull it up, and they can send that to the incident commander. Now, if he's there in a bulky situation, or it's the middle of the night, and they can't really see the size or the shape of the building, all of a sudden on his little computer screen, he can see, holy cow, look at the size of this building. It goes, it's behind the 2 exposures too. It's a T shape. We wouldn't have known that if we didn't get that picture from headquarters.
Oh, and now they've got drones in cities already stationed on top of buildings and high rises. And when dispatches you or the cops, the drone is on the scene before we are. The drones take off from these buildings 24 hours a day, and it's instantaneous. You're the BC, and you can pull up a live picture before you're even there, whether there's smoke or no smoke or whatever. So some of that, like you see in the FDNY and other parts around the country, is phenomenal. Why would you not take advantage of that? And now you've got the tethered drones with the box on top of the buggy, right? You go to the command post, you're in the back, you're running your fire, your ADIS, he hits the button, it's up there, and you don't even need to have the FAA license for a drone with a tethered one, I believe. Up it goes, and the drone, it's already up in the air for you. So there's so many ways of doing this. But so I want to bring something up I've talked to you about before for our listeners, our viewers. You heard me tell this story. I've got plenty of stories about. I remember, John, I have the tapes, so we use them in class. The one is it's a good sized department, credited ISO and all this stuff. This BC pulls up, and I remember him asking an ambulance, a paramedic, what color smoke do you have coming out of the garage? All right, what color smoke do you have coming out of the roof now? And I'm like, are you not even close enough to see this? And I'm no disrespect to the young paramedic you're talking about, because I love EMS, but I think I'd rather listen to someone who does tactics, strategy, like a chief or an officer, a lieutenant captain that knows fire behavior. You're not even close enough. That's one thing. The other one was, I'm grading FDIC papers. You remember this story? I won't say the department. You know the department. I'm listening to they get bumped out on a structure fire. Speak, I pull them up. I'm listening to as live as you get, about 30 seconds behind with my one app. And I hear them say units en route. The SO's on the scene says fully involved, which we know was not fully involved. It usually, So the first engine pulls up and, it says heavy fire, blah, 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 this and that, blah, blah. And the captain says, I'll be doing my 3, the long-winded size up, right, that we don't want. I'm out. The weather's 70 degrees. The trees are blowing to the right, blah, 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 blah. And he goes through this whole long thing, and I'll be doing my 360. So staffing's a minimum. So the BC pulls up, and now this guy reported heavy fire, and the next to engine says, do you want a line dropped? Negative, hold off. He's not even there yet. And you say negative, hold off. I'm like, you have someone saying fully involved, someone saying well involved, and you're not dropping a supply line. Duh. So you remember where I'm going with this. And so he pulls up and he calls his engine, and he says, give me progress report. Hang on, I'm still doing my 360. I'm like, what do you mean you're still doing your 360? He calls him again. He goes, do you have any, I swear to God, the next thing he asks him, John, is not if there's exposure problems, is there life being threatened inside, is a building occupied, whatever. Are there any electrical hazards? And he says, not at the moment. I'm trying to get around to meet it. I'm still doing my 360. Then he asked, and I'm like, is anybody really doing anything yet? And I'm watching my clock, and minutes are going by. And then he says, okay, we're this is minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes. They're on the scene, and now they're making an interior attack, and they're inside. And he calls for a PPV fan to the front door. Fire's still not under control. So dispatch does the whole, you're in 10 minutes. Okay, blah. Dispatch does a thing, you're in, So I'm hearing this. Oh God, I want you to just, we're into this thing more than 10 minutes. All right. And you hear dispatch call command and say, now no one's searching yet, right? No one's searching yet. The dispatcher calls command and says, you have a neighbor saying that their neighbor should be home. There should be so then he assigns another engine to search, and they immediately call for EMS at the front door. They have an adult in cardiac arrest. And then they immediately call and say, we have a second adult in cardiac arrest. And I'm going, we're now 20 minutes into this incident. I kept the tape. And you just now were inside, sir. I mean, I was like, and the whole time, 3 different times the BC John said, what do you have? I don't have eyes on the fire. He said that 3 times. Well, I'm not in a position where I have eyes on the fire. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't have eyes on the fire? You're parked in such a position you can't even see it, and you don't have another. I just was out of my mind, John, listening to this fire and going, this just isn't right. I mean, I don't know. If you don't have the traffic cop in front of the building for me, and I'm look, pretty much all the fires in Louisville have somebody sitting in the car. I can't tell how many times when I pull up, I tell you about this. En route to a call, command from, the chief one from command. Go ahead, Jerry. Hey, when you get here, I'll take operations. You take command, which means I got to sit in the car, either with or without it, and draw the pictures with the Crayola set and talk, which I'm fine with, and let the BC be the field and run the whole fire. And I just support him. Command from, ops from command. You had progress report.
And which really brings us to the question is, what is the command post? Which is the command post? Is it the chief? Is it the guy with 25 years on the job, has been a chief for 18 years, great experience, standing in the front of the building, he knows all the companies, he knows all the offices, he's watching what's going on, he's lived in town for 20 years, the perfect guy to be running the fire, right? And then 75 feet away, just past the first new truck, is the chief's car with an aide in it, with the second arriving battalion chief in it, with the guy whose operations in it, however you want to run that, right? And he's using all the technology. He's got the screen. He's got the accountability radio in there. He's got the dispatcher. He can call the dispatcher. Dispatcher can call him. He got a lot of stuff going on there, a lot of technology that's good and useful, and he's using it. Are we calling him the command post, or are we calling the chief the command post? Every fire I went to, I was command. You can have any car you want there. You can have anybody sitting in the car. You can have any technology you want. You can have the drone guy sitting next to the guy with the accountability screen. And that's all great stuff. But sometimes in the fire service, we get so hung up on names and on filling in the boxes at the incident command system, filling in the box. Okay, the command post is there. And actually, I think it's a misnomer. I think the guy that's in command, or the gal that's in command, the chief that's in command, that's the command post. That's the commander. And then now maybe you have an operations post there. Maybe there's some people there using the technology and the radios and the screens and the scanners, and they can tell where people are by on a screen. Everybody's got sending devices. You can see what floor people are on. That's all wonderful, valuable, irreplaceable, vital stuff that doesn't make that car 5 buildings away or 2 buildings away or 1 rig away. That doesn't make that vehicle the command post, Now, obviously, people will argue with me, and there's different ways to structure things. So it doesn't, my way is not the right way. My way is the way that works well for me. And the equipment that we have and the technology we have and the staffing that we have, if you do it different, that's fine too. But you got to prioritize things. And command is command is command. And I don't think it's the place that has the most equipment. I think it's the place. It's the place where the person who's in command is. Well,
and we talked about it. Yeah, at the beginning, the variables. There's so many different ways people have to run things because of personnel and stuff. Some places you're the only chief there. Guess what? You're in command. And whether you're in the vehicle, out of the vehicle, is your big boss's decision how you're going to run. The whole thing is, like I said, someone's got to be the traffic cop. You've got, what? There's been times I've been sitting in my car looking right at the building. I'm right there. run a fire just fine. With a microphone in my hand, with all my stuff. And I've been there. People are coming because I got there for whatever. I'm in a great spot. Inside or outside. I mean, I could have got out of my car and walked, across like a little tiny street or driveway and been standing in front of it. I mean, it was no problem. My point is too, John, like you said, the traffic cop that needs to be in front. There needs to be. I don't know how you can send people in and out of a burning building without somebody monitoring conditions, know when to pull them out, when to push them in, how they're making progress, who's doing what. That roof doesn't look good. Guys, look over here. Oh, I got an exposure problem, whatever. Managing when they bring victims out, who's doing what, and pointing. The traffic cop, right? Blowing your whistle this way, that way. You come over here. Hey, guys, come up here. The initial attack engine is about ready to come out. I know right now, you call me second buzzing. You're going in after him. You're going, I need a secondary from you. That whole person, which I know some people say they can do in the radio, but now you're plugging up the radio.
Right.
Right. So you've got that. So I'll go back to, there's a lot of ways to do this. I've said it about your department. I'll say about Chicago. Chicago's another great, capital letters, great fire department. My buddies from Chicago will tell you, just like you will. Like you'll say about the FNY, they'll say, Chicago's not perfect, but we do a lot of shit right. And so that chief, that BC pulls up, runs the fire. When the command van pulls up on every working fire, there's a firefighter that's trained to be like, he's like the roving aide, if you will. He shows up and he's your Jack Schiavone. But he's in this command van. Gordon Nord, our good buddy, Chief Gordon Nord, always takes pictures of it. He's in the command van. That chief he'll go 271, go ahead and strike a 3. 271 to Maine. On the orders on a whole different channel, on the orders of the 4th Battalion, strike a 211 on this, blah, blah, blah. 272 to Maine. All right, Battalion 4 reports he's got a 300 by 400 warehouse, heavy fire back. 271, they're like your aide, they're talking to dispatch, to the alarm officers.
Same thing, we field comm. We call it a field comm. There's a civilian radio dispatcher in there. There's a civilian radio operator in there. And the chief at the scene, wherever he is, he talks directly to this guy in the van, the field comm, and then the field comm talks to the dispatcher, right? Field comm 1 to Manhattan, go ahead, okay, at Bronx box 3129, Chief Salka is ordering a third alarm, or primary search is a complete negative, secondaries are underway, whatever the reports are. So you're still just talking to it, but it still doesn't make the van, doesn't make the command van, doesn't make any, those are not the command post. The command post or command, without the word post, is still the commander, still the chief that's in charge of the fire, running the fire. Whoever answers command on the radio, when somebody says, engine 1 to command, whoever answers that radio, that's what a command post is.
Well, and I, like I mentioned before, you go to a box in Chicago, you're still alarms here, and you get there and go, you're the battalion chief, give me a box on this, or the office box it for you. You get a chief, they go, like I said, they go, Maine to Battalion 4 to 4th Battalion, you're the plans chief, which means you park your car down the street, you walk down, you get in the command van with that firefighter, and you're like, now you're talking to me, and I know what you're talking about because I'm another chief. So I've done that plenty of times now where I showed up at fires and they said, Chief, you do me a favor, you would just sit over here with this chief and help him. He's kind of newer. You've done it too. Hey, kind of show yourself to help, the senior advisor. Come here, Tommy. Okay. When have you heard about your primary search? Okay, call primary, see where they're at, how they're doing. Okay, when's the last time you get progress report to dispatch? All right, let's talk about what are you going to talk? We've all been there where somebody has helped us, coached us up a little bit on the fireground. This brings back my point I bring up all the time. If for the people that go, but I'm the only chief that responds. Well, then call help. I built it into our system, both with inside chiefs and outside chiefs. And I've said this, if you're a chief officer that doesn't want to go to a fire, I don't even know what to say, all right, without cursing.
Right.
Okay?
Your job at headquarters. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to say, if you're a boss and you're coming to my scene, bring your turnout gear. If you don't bring your turnout gear, all right, unless I tell you just come sit in the car. If you don't bring your turnout gear, then stand over behind the yellow tape and take pictures. I need bosses that'll walk up like Curtis, like Scott Thompson. Scott Thompson will walk up. Gear, air pack. Hey, boss, what do you need? Oh, Scott, good. God bless. Do me a favor. Get to the 3rd floor and fix this for me. Get up there or take safety for me or take Division C for me or whatever, And now it goes back to, as we start, as Tom Freeman would say, he used to say colored in all the boxes, right, on the form. Okay, I got command. I got someone. I got Chief Salka in front. He's got ops. All right, I got Battalion Chief Blattis in the back of the building. He's got the back for me because I can't get around there. I got Chief Sorensen. He's going to manage my fast truck, my RIT team, because this thing's growing. I got another chief doing it. You could send me 10 bosses, and I tell you what, I'll put them to work. I used to have Bruce Varner, and so I go, Bruce, come here, sit down, get in here, sit here, take this freaking radio, talk to these guys. Let me talk to my mayor. Or I'd say, Bruce, do me a favor, talk to my city manager, tell them what's going on. Having that think tank, having bosses there. So unless you're in an area where you just don't have teams around.
And that can be done anywhere.
Oh.
Big cities like New York and Chicago do it. It's built into the system. But you can build it into your system in your department, your 10-station department with 2 battalion chiefs. Even if you have 1 battalion chief, you have 5 stations and 1 battalion. Guess what? You can have it set up, and you should be doing this. If you're the chief of department or whoever it is that runs your department, this should be systemic. This should already be set up. When there's a working fire in your town and your only battalion chief goes there should be an automatic dispatch of another battalion chief to your city to now take on the duty of battalion chief available for the next run. And another battalion chief from another locale should be sent to the fire to be your operations chief or your second guy or your interior guy or whatever it is you decide to do. But you shouldn't have to remember to call for it. That should be built into the same thing with status reports, right? The dispatcher in FDNY calls you, Bronx to the 1-8. We're waiting for a status report. A 10-4. Chief, Bronx, what's the status report? Oh, okay, good. Tell them primary search is a complete negative. Secondary is underway. Fire's still doubtful. We get 2 lines stretched, and the fire's still doubtful. You don't have to remember to give a progress report. They prompt you. So you have that built into the system. So the chief isn't there trying to remember everything. It should just flow. It should be built into the system.
Well, and as it is in the FDNY, and it is in Chicago, in the suburbs, when you box something, they use the box cards, the MABUS cards. And not only do they have these 3 engines, these 2 trucks, this go into the scene, like yours, they have fill-ins or change corps or covering companies, including battalion chiefs.
Right.
And there's something in the MABUS divisions where if you get to like a 3rd alarm or 4th alarm or greater, it used to be a 3rd alarm or greater, or if you have 2 fires at the same time, they had a special box card. They would create a whole other fire department for your city. They would put together a battalion chief, like 2 engines, a ladder, and an ambulance, and they would send it to South Blooming Grove, and they would sit in your firehouse. And you know what? They were not going to. You could go to 20 alarms at the fire,
and they're not going.
They were not going.
Right.
They would be pulled in from the outskirts, and they became the new South Blooming Grove fire department. And they handled your gas leaks and EMS. They weren't going, hey, we're next going to fire. No, you guys are the new fire department here.
And that can be set up anywhere. That can even be set up with volunteers. It can be. Yeah.
So they do that. There's times in Denton County right here, where in Texas, where they would do the whole, they tone out and 2 engines are going to scene and one's going to their station. The other one's standing by in quarters. You guys do that. That you can build this if you want. Now I always brag on Wichita West, the best in the West. Our good friend Chief Ryan Fetzer. Wichita West is spread out, John. I mean, they're not falling over each other with companies. You got to get your fire truck and drive a little bit. Automatic Aid with Iowa Park or Mutual Aid, there are bosses there. They're so rare to have just Ryan there. As great as Ryan's a great chief officer, he's a great incident commander. It's so rare to just have him there without his assistant or without the chief from Iowa Park there, Andy, who in Payne's a great guy, or whoever, or Will coming over here, or this guy coming. It's like here they come. You see them getting out of their cars, they're putting their white helmets on. You just have to assign them where you want them. If you have a system where you're the only chief going and you don't have a means to call more chiefs, your system's broken. I'm sorry.
That's
you can
right.
yell at me all you want.
Right.
That is, your system's broken. And God forbid something serious happens.
Now what?
You and I say this all the time. Don't confuse confidence for cockiness. You and I, neither one of us are cocky, but we are confident. And I'll say this, we run a good fire. I love, and I know you do too, I love having lots of bosses there. I love having guys that go, Richie, get around there. Why would you do that to yourself and punish yourself and stress yourself instead of having help? The military doesn't do that. Major James Salka is not the only officer in Afghanistan. You know what I'm saying? He's got captains and lieutenants and gunneries. And you know what I'm saying? Why would you not bring extra bosses there?
Right. You want a command team. You want a command team.
So whether you run it from in your car or out of your car is not as much the argument is, does the system, I guess, folks, work for you? Does it, we've said this before, people like, we use this system for incident command or whatever. I'm like, well, Chief Salka, what do you think about this thing? And I know you and I go, well, what do you think about it? Does it work for you? If it does, God bless you. Whatever works in your region, whatever works due to the fact you have a gigantic lake that your mutual aid's coming further from, or whatever. There's 1,000 things that your system, if you don't sit down and play with it as chiefs and wear it out, kind of practicing, hey, what if we had, you will fail. But bringing up bosses at a scene. Now, again, I'll just say this. I don't agree with having somebody in the command car where they're the only one there and they can't see the building. I am 100% against somebody sitting in a car that cannot see the building without having a boss in front of the building. And you and I have done this. I've challenged them. So where are you getting your progress reports from? They're inside. They can't see. Who's telling them? Can you see progress? Can you see smoke changing? Are neighbors come up saying they're in there? Who's talking to you? Who's making sure the scene's secure?
Point.
Where are you?
Here, let me disagree with you respectfully. Here's my point. If you got a guy sitting in a van or in the chief's car or in a command van or wherever it is, and he can't see the building, too far away, or wherever that picked up, rigs are parked in front, or it's around the corner, or whatever. If you got the commander sitting in the van or the car and he can't see the building, but you put somebody in front of the building with a white helmet that can see it, that can be the I say swap them. I still say the guy that's in charge should be in front of the building. And if you want to have somebody in the van to access the technology and the radio and the accountability board and stuff like that, well then put the assistant in there, put the battalion in there, put the operations chief in there, and the guy that's in command should still be the one eyeballing with eyes on the building. If you think it's necessary to have a guy in front of the building, even if the command chief can't see the building, then swap him and put the command chief where he can see the building and put somebody else in the van or in the car and let them manage the rest of the technology. The stuff that is vital and it is still necessary, but it doesn't have to be the guy that's in command managing it. It could be the second guy. It could be the assistant talking to the dispatcher, relaying information to the chief in front of the building. I still like the guy or the gal that's in charge eyeballing the building.
And that's a very good point. And you guys do it. You go to fire in the Bronx and you bump a second, you get your deputy. And if he keeps going, they're going to be whoever comes next, a 1-star, 2-star, 3, whatever it is. In Chicago, you're going to get a deputy district chief. Then you're going to get a covering a 211 chief, a district chief that's going to come there. And they're always look at Timmy Oak or Gordon Nord's pictures. They take a picture like, gee, you look and you go, oh, I see 2110, I see 213, I see 21. The commissioner of the department standing right there. I'll tell you this, when the commissioner shows up 213 in Chicago and on the scene gets up there, I know who's in command. I'm just saying. But there's a whole cadre of bosses up front. Right. It's a great point you make. I agree with you, but my whole point was too, you got to have someone in front of the building. If you swap the positions, which is a great valid point, if you swap it and put second to chief in the car and you're still running the operation, perfect, fine. But there's got to be someone, and some of these guys and gals that are good people, John, limited experience, think they can run a fire without seeing the fire. And I don't know how you can do that. How you can, the military has commanders. The military is making decisions probably from the Pentagon of things going on in Afghanistan, but they have people out there. What did Patton used to say? He made his commanders visit the front every day, so they had eyes on. But he still had bosses up there that had eyes on what's going on. The whole point I was making was too, is like, I don't know how you can sit in a car and not even see. It goes back to what color smoke's coming out. I mean, I don't know how you can do that.
It's like playing a card game. It's like being in a card game with 4 or 5 other people and you can't see them. You're all in separate rooms. All you have is your cards in front of you. You can't look at them. You can't see them. You can't see what people are throwing down or nothing else. All you can see is what you got in front of them or what they tell you. You know what I'm saying? There's something to be said for being there on scene, for seeing it and smelling it and looking at it. Just about every fire I went to, I was the most senior guy at the scene. I was the most senior guy at the scene, sometimes more senior than a deputy that would arrive. More senior in rank to me, but not senior in time. What's the benefit of putting me in an air-conditioned car around the corner? I can't see the fire. I can't smell the fire. I can't see. Holy shit, it was out 3 windows when I got here. Now there's smoke coming out 3 more. Like if you don't see that, when I saw that, that would be part of my next decision of whether I'm going to call more help or go for another alarm or call Chris, say, Chris, get over here. Get me another engine truck. Get him an exposure too. That might be something I do without any fanfare because I eyeballed it, because I saw it, so that's my yeah.
I'll say it again. Go to Gordon Nord's, Chief Gordon Nord's, or Timmy Oak's photos, their website. Look at their photos. You said it earlier about now, rather than you get sent in, the deputy's going, John, stay with me. Let's talk. Now there's a team building, and he's going, when you got here, what'd you have? You know what I'm saying? You've got first-hand chief information. Look at Timmy and Gordy's pictures. You look at these big bosses. I call them the white coats in Chicago because the battalions wear black. All the DDs and commissioners when they show up, they have thousands and thousands of pictures of those guys standing together, and they're pointing, they're talking, they're looking at each other. I look at these pictures, I go, and you and I talk about, look, the bosses are talking. The bosses are, I've had guys turn to me, John, and go, Rick, what are we doing? I've had guys that are senior in the fire service but junior in rank as chief go, what do you think, Chief? You know what? Go get a second alarm coming. They're not making progress. Let's, and we've worked together. I've always welcomed the help. I've never had a problem with somebody coming up. Like I said, I'll fill the squares out all day long. The argument of somebody saying that I can only be the only chief on the scene because my chief will let me call for help is kind of a weak argument. Number two, I think some guys, John, they spend so much money on a particular system or command module that they'll fight with you and argue with you to justify their purchase, not justify whether it works or not. Does that make sense? I mean, that's like, guys, we've seen it with other stuff. No. The reason we put 150 pounds in the RIT bag is because it is. No, that's not good. No, that's not good. Over the years, you and I said, we're not arguing.
Some guys are more interested in the purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, oh shit, if the mayor shows up and sees nobody in a command van, he's going to ask why we have that thing. You know what I'm saying? Well, and my answer to that would be, well, maybe that's a good question. Why do we have it if we're running the fire without somebody in it? You know what I'm saying? So,
well, exactly. And the fire service is constantly evolving. There's some guys that say, yeah, if my chief shows up, I'm on the car, I get in trouble. I get written up if there's no one in the car at all, like I'm by myself, whatever. And I'm like, okay. And
I'd bring a mannequin. I'd have a mannequin in the back seat. I would sit him up when I went into the front of the building. Chief, he's not listening. Chief.
He's not answering. But that's like, for years we were told by a couple individuals that everyone had the level one stage. I won't get into names here. If you get out of the car, I had a boss say, good guy, mentor said, the headset is the tether for the officer. That way you don't get off the road. If you walk up to the scene without an assignment from me, you're in trouble. And then years later, to justify a program, they said, well, let's bring everybody up and we'll stage them up in front. And then I'll go, okay, 501, you're next, 161, you're after. And I went, and they ask you, so what do you think about that, Rick or John? I go, I think it's great. We've been using it for like 1,000 years. You guys are just catching on to this? I don't want the guys getting off the rig, tucking their stuff, checking, getting their tools. I want them standing. I look at pictures of your guys, and you look at pictures of Louisville. You turn around, there's a gazillion helmets in the street.
That's
people
right.
Go,
I got a small army right behind me waiting to go.
And I've seen the Facebook firefighters go, oh, do you think they have enough? Everybody's standing around doing nothing. No, there's like 2 alarms worth of people in that building. This is a whole nother regiment, a whole nother wave, ready to relieve, go.
The next wave of guys that are going to go in. And I tell you the story about turning around. When rescue calls for, hey, Chief, we need a lineup here, the top flight, turn around. And I'm like, nope. Hey, Timmy, come here. And I can pick who I want out of the crowd. You know what I'm saying? Instead of saying, nope, the next engine is this engine right here. Not when I'm working, it's that engine right there,
How many times you've been standing there and you're listening to progress reports and you're knowing right now you're going to have to send someone in to finish a primary, and you turn around and they're already walking. They already know. They're already walking up. They're walking kind of close, ready, because they know, 142 truck is next. They're looking at you, and you turn, you go, oh, you're here. Yeah. All right, go up there, finish, this side, do the right-hand side of the floor, whatever instead of, send your unit down from and tell them to get dressed, tell them to bring their tools and all. And now you're delaying. I remember at a fire in Trophy Club, a great fire, but they had a good job yesterday, by the way. I think I said you had a good job, and they did. That's a great fire department, Trophy Club. Those guys did great with it. They pulled up, had heavy fire, and boom. But I remember being at a fire, and we had multiple lightning strikes. and we had a couple houses, 6,000 square foot homes with fire to the roof. I pull up, I'm by myself with fire to the roof. And I get a mutual aid engine, another department that's great department. They pull up, I put them, I go, look, get a line to the second floor, pull some ceiling. We can kill this off right now. It's in the attic, but we can finish this, you know. And they're in there working, and we got what, and now they're, you know, they're staying in longer than they should. Chief, we need some relief. And I'm going, where's my, and I look at the next two engine, John, hand to God, they're down the street putting their gear on. And I'm going, and it got to the point where I had to back those guys out, and all the ground they fought for, we ended up going defensive. We had one line could have killed it, and we burnt a building down because these guys weren't ready. You know, that kind of stuff. It's the same thing. Bring them up there, have them stand there with you, call plenty of help. You can always turn them around. I don't know anybody that doesn't want to go to a fire.
Nope.
They're more pissed about sitting in a firehouse. So if you've got this command system set up where you don't have enough bosses to cover your divisions, to do, you know, put someone in safety, put someone here. One of my maydays, I had, remember Marion Blackwell, right? We met him, good chief. Love Marion, right? Was in Spartanburg forever. He was my RIT chief in Coeur d'Alene. We had that mayday. Jeff Welch had interior. I had a chief in the back building. Marty had ops. I had one in safety. And when the mayday hit, it was like I had all these white help. Chief, got this guy. Everything was handled. I wasn't trying to. So you know what, folks, work it into your system. You know, work it and just. Look, we're not rewriting anybody's policies, are we, John? We're just talking. Agree to disagree if you want, folks. Is fine with us.
Whatever works for you.
Yeah, as long as it works, right? We've talked about that.
That's the standard, right? It's got to work. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, any closing thoughts on this? I mean, you pretty much covered everything.
I mean, just that you need to take a look at this once in a while. A lot of places don't have a lot of fires, so they don't get to set this up all the time and actually practice it. It's in theory or it's infrequent. So once in a while, run a good command drill and see how everything works, you know?
Exactly. Or play with it a little bit. Play with your past fire. Say, hey, we just had a fire. Let's talk about if it went sideways on it. How would we handle that? Who's coming next? Where are they coming from? Who are your bosses? Who are you going to stick there? You know, I remember a long time ago, there was one chief, John, that we always gave him staging because I didn't really want him up at the building, you know, so we had an assignment for him. He took it as a compliment. He made his own staging vest. But anyway, but you know who your buddies are, who's coming in, who's got your back. Just like when you were all those years as a captain, a 48 engine, doing 6,000 runs, you were 10 fires a day. You knew who you wanted coming in behind you. You and I have talked about, man, I hope they come, not they, whatever. We all know that.
Yep.
Guys, commanders, set up, get your bosses coming in. You turn around. Anytime I saw Curtis coming in,
right.
Anytime there were guys that went, oh, God, thank God you're here. Come on here. Go in. I can't tell how many times I've said that. Go in there and fix this for me. Will you just go in there and fix this for me? You know, have a robust command team. Figure out how you're going to do it. Then you can figure out inside, outside, front, whatever, you know, catch up with the technology, make sure you're training your people, and you can go from there. So
for sure.
But anyway, hey, another good topic. And I'm glad we talked about the juniors, John, at the beginning, because I think that's a lost benefit in a lot of departments. I know it's extra work, folks.
And
I know
it's available everywhere. Just about available everywhere. Yep.
Oh, and if you know, some of the people don't want to use one particular program or other because it kind of hamstrings because they're not allowed to do certain things. Some programs are. There's plenty of people out there, folks, to reach out to and ask, and they'll send you their policies, their processes, and everybody's sharing. So, hey, we're pretty much on all the social media sites and everything else. John, if they want to get a hold of you, best email?
Chief John Salka at gmail.com.
And I'm Chief Lasky at gmail.com. And we thank you. Keep spreading the word about the command posts. We're setting up our schedule for some different things. And like I said, we never work off as you can tell, we never work off a script, but we like it that way. We do have a few people we want to start bringing on the show. John and I have been talking about this, kind of like we do at the Hump Day Hangout on Wednesdays, but hopefully we get to see at FDIC. We never end any of our shows without saying, please keep the men and women in our armed forces in your thoughts and prayers. Remember this, never forgetting truly does mean never forgetting. Be safe. God bless you. We will catch you next time on the Command Post.
Firefighters know that every second counts during the golden hour. That is why first responders trust AMKUS for simple, rugged, reliable